hear us, but now they
Oh,
can.
no.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
no. I do that every time because I'm like, well, whatever. They just see a nice, pretty open screen right now. That's all they're seeing.
It works.
Right?
Whatever works.
Yeah. All right. Well, hi everyone. I am so excited to welcome Scarlett St. Clair here. We are going to be having a spoiler conversation on A Game of Fate. This is to prep all of you before the release of A Game of Retribution, which, by the way, I still have not read yet, but I'm going to start it tonight. So, I'm very excited to read this.
Given that you have been so focused on A Game of Fate,
That would kind of make sense. Okay, good. I'm
yeah.
glad. I was like, just so you know, I haven't been neglecting it. It's been sitting there. But I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about A Game of Fate. So again, reminder, if you have not read this book, come back. This will be recorded. You can watch it later because we are going to be talking full spoilers. And I was just telling her, I literally finished my reread, I think 2 hours ago. So I was with all my notes and craziness. So we get to ask a bunch of fun questions tonight. I know there's a few questions in our Slido. For those of you that don't know how that works, you go to slido.com. And then if you use the code, it's literally A Game of Fate, AGOF. You can see all the questions in there. I'll just pull a few random ones in there. So don't worry. I will try to get to those as best I can. But I also pulled a ton from my reread. Try to remind you guys what happened in the plot of A Game of Fate. Remind all of us what happened. But I wanted to start off with an easy question, or maybe not an easy question. I don't know. But how do you come up with the title? How did you come up with A Game of Fate as the title?
Oh, well.
Is it a fun story or a boring story?
Simple. No, it's just dumb. It's like Hades' thing is, gambling.
Yeah.
So, and he's really big he's into fate in that book. He's all about this is my fate.
Yeah.
A Game of Fate.
Yeah.
Not that cool.
Yeah, but you weaved it in really nicely. When I got to the chapter where you brought it up, I was like, this is good.
I always call those cinema sins. Because when you watch the CinemaSin thing, they always if you use the title in the script, it's a CinemaSin.
Yes.
And so I always call it a CinemaSin. But
my gosh, that's so
I did it
funny.
in A Game of Retribution too.
yes, because it was even when I saw a touch of darkness come across in A Game of Fate, which I know comes up in A Touch of Darkness as well. But I was like, oh look, there it is. There's the little nod.
There's the CinemaSin.
There it is.
CinemaSin.
Yeah. Is there a touch of ruin in A Game of Retribution? Does it get brought up?
It just ruined me. She just says ruin me. And that's kind
fair.
of the nod to the title. Yeah.
Fair.
Malice, no. Just a lot of references to the malice of the gods,
Yeah.
And A Game of Gods is referenced though in Retribution because ultimately, nice. Right, I think anytime you have gods, they're always messing with the little people, know, and so
yeah, they can't let anything go. I feel like that's the best part about this story is even the simple thing of stealing the cattle, that's just so simple. And Hades was like, yeah, I'll give them back. Don't worry. Anyways, getting back at this point.
The whole point of the gods, I think, is just that they're ridiculous. They're very absurd. And even Hades participates in that absurdity,
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the best part. Is you don't know if he'll stoop to that level, but he does.
Yeah.
It's always a win.
My favorite.
And then your chapter titles, because there were some chapter titles I read in a game. I know that I read in A Game of Fate that I just could not stop laughing at. They're just so good, but I know how you feel about them. How do you come up with them?
I don't know, because I got so tired of it in Retribution. I think for Hades, he's just so much more blatant, and so you can have more fun with chapter titles. Everything is going to be in my head from Retribution, but Helios is an asshole is one of the chapter titles in Retribution, and I'm like, that's such a Hades thing.
Yeah.
So some of it's just that.
I was gonna say, some of my favorites in here was for your pleasure, a montage.
Oh no, yeah. Have I told you about the montage?
No.
That's so intentional. So you know how all great, romance novels have a sex montage?
Yes.
So I was like, I'm gonna write a sex montage in A Game of Fate, and then I'm gonna title it that, and No, I don't think anyone gets it, but I think I'm hilarious.
No, I thought it was hysterical. I like immediately knew what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that because I think I'm funny.
That one, and then like teaching a god old tricks, and then a picnic in the underworld. Like there's just some really good ones.
I just thought that was I just thought it was hilarious. So
yeah, but then there's like some fun ones, like the 3 moons. Like that was when I was like, oh, I know what this is. Like there's some good ones in here, but just the little hidden messages or the nods.
Yeah. I just love that. The thing that I think is so fun about writing modern Greek mythology anyway is all the nods, and you can do it in like really subtle ways or, really obvious ways. And it's just fun. It's fun for me.
Well, I mean, yeah, it seems like it's a lot of fun. Like I just like every time I come across one, I'm like, I know they're a pain, but they're great. And they just get better like as you get farther into the book.
It was just so hard doing like Retribution because like one one is like Return of the Nymph, which is totally like Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
And but if you pre-order a game of Retribution, you can submit the receipt for that Hades and Persephone story, and there's a reference to sand, like how uncomfortable sand is, and all I can do is think of the Anakin scene that I hate so much, where he's like, I hate sand, it's so coarse and whatever. Anyways, I die laughing every time I read that because that's what pops into my head, and that's why I included it.
that's I mean, listen, I'm all for it. It cracks me up like every time I read one of these. Okay, so early on, I think before I get into like some of the questions about like some of these moments, I think the one thing I did want to ask is like, when did you decide? I know we talked about this a little bit, but like, when did you decide that you wanted to put this in Hades' point of view, and like what was just kind of getting into his mindset after writing the Persephone side?
I decided because I had just finished Ruin and would then transition into Malice, but I asked people if they wanted to read, if they wanted A Touch of Darkness from Hades' point of view, because readers had been asking if I would do that, and I felt like I had a story for it, and so I asked readers, like, which one do you want first? Do you want Malice or A Game of Fate? And they chose A Game of Fate. So if you want to blame anyone for the fact that all the books are published weirdly, you blame the readers. So yeah, and it was really difficult. I remember, trying to figure out what his voice was, and the key to it was thinking about how he had come into the world as a god, because he had been born, right, and then swallowed by his father, and then rescued. And when he was rescued, he was sort of reborn into this 10-year war. Yeah. And I thought, well, that would be a lot of PTSD. And, I wouldn't be a very pleasant person to be around. Plus, he drew lots. In mythology, he drew lots. I think in my canon, he chose the underworld. But he also goes to the underworld with a lot of traumatized souls, because literally everyone who's died has died from battle. So, yeah. And so I kind of just use that to get into his head. But every time I have to transition back into his head, it's so hard. And he is so resistant to just telling me anything. That makes sense. But I remember in particular with Retribution and Fate is that, I felt it more with Retribution. I was like, you are so dramatic. Like, you are so broody. Yes. And I just can't deal with your emo act right now. And I remember like feeling like that, trying to write Retribution. Yeah. Because he's just such a different mentality. And he thinks differently. Like, I would be like, blah, 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 blah. And then he said this. And then he would be like, I wouldn't say it like that. And I'm like, what would you say? And he would be like, a word, like one word answer. That's how he acts. Meanwhile, he has all this internal monologue, about woe is me. Yes. But he never voices it. Yes. He's the most infuriating person I've ever written in my entire life.
I feel like half of these questions, you're just going to laugh because a lot of them are like, why didn't he just say it? Like, like, dude, just say it.
He is such an interesting thing, because I feel like in the world of the gods, you don't say what
Yeah.
you actually are thinking.
Yeah.
It's like a danger, right? To be any kind of, human. And what gods do is they react instead of talking. Like
Yeah.
literally their whole wars are fought because the gods don't talk. They just like react, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how he reacts with everything in order to sort of keep his power. Also, keeping secrets keeps you more powerful. The more you talk, the more people have against you. So I think he just applied that to every aspect of his life. And it feels really scary to be vulnerable because,
Yes.
he didn't get all where he was by, being open and honest.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I think, and that kind of leads me to, because something I noticed early on is like the very first time he sees Persephone, he has a lot of obviously internal dialogue about like how attracted he is to her, not realizing who she is at that moment, but has like an idea. But I wonder, like, do you think, and this is something I thought about too when I was reading Ruin or even, any of the other books, like, do you think Hades feels like Persephone needs to learn like her own lessons, or does she should just learn them on her own and he shouldn't intervene?
He's such an odd person. I think that I think in some respects, yes, but I also think he is so used to being a god and thinking that people will listen to his word.
Yeah.
And and she's not like that. And of course she's not. From the very beginning, we know that. So I don't necessarily think it's this idea that she should learn her own lessons. I think he fully trusts that she will listen to what he's saying at first.
Right.
Which is stupid because she's never been that kind of person.
No.
But he also just doesn't really think beyond what's happening.
Right.
Well, and we can look at Ruin for that, right? Death is just a part of his life. He doesn't see it as anything, more or less. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And for him, that doesn't change anything, but he's also never had really close relationships or partnerships that, really made him beholden to anyone.
Right.
So I think it's just a different way of thinking about the world. Persephone has a very different way of thinking about the world, and so does Hades. But I always felt like gods are super ruthless in their view of the world, right?
Yeah.
Even Hades is ruthless in the way that he views mortal life. It has really it's not that it doesn't have meaning to him. It just it is a cycle,
Yeah.
But when you're raised human and mortal,
right, it's a totally different thing. I mean, even later on in this book, when we interact with Poseidon, I was like, oh, he is ruthless in a way that is different than Hades, but it's still irritating. And then you have Zeus in the same room, and he's like, listen, this is how this, like, none of them are. Yeah, I don't think anyone can stand Zeus.
Like, on a scale, Hades is probably the best one you want to be like in the room with.
Yes.
But he still has these things that make him like there are reasons that he's one of the three most powerful gods, right?
Yes.
And you have to have some similar characteristics to be that powerful, right? So it's interesting. He is a very, I think sometimes you can be used to just being all powerful and your word meaning everything, that you never consider that someone might not listen to you.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting question. I'll probably think on that a little bit more and have a different answer later.
No, that's fine. I mean, it is like
question.
It's kind of funny because well, my introduction to Greek mythology, like I feel like a lot of people, was Percy Jackson. So it was like, oh, I automatically loved Poseidon because he was the dad, and it was like great.
I've never read those.
Really?
So I don't know. Yeah, no, I never read them. So when they told me that, I was shocked because I think it takes a lot to redeem a character from mythology like Poseidon because of his role in mythology. And not that I don't think it isn't doable. I just, for me, the way that they're written in my story, they're not good people.
I think it's also hard because I mean that story is more for kids, and so like it's a totally different thing. And it was funny, like growing up being like, I like Poseidon, and then you read all like the actual myth and you're like, oh, never mind.
He's terrible.
Like, I don't.
We do that with everything, up until you're an adult, like people don't tell you the truth of Christopher Columbus, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
you know, you grew up coloring him in like first grade, right?
Yes.
And then later you're like, oh, he's the murderer.
Yeah, he's
so
that
it's
guy.
like, he's that guy. So I get it. But yeah, I anytime I do that, I try to like, they're both learning lessons, but they're learning some very similar lessons and some very different lessons.
Yeah.
And Hades has never had any problem being confident in himself, but his confidence is like non-existent when it comes to relationships with people.
Yeah. Which is super, because that was the next thing was, you notice very early on when he puts Persephone in the contract, like he keeps like arguing with himself. He's like, oh, I mean, I technically could get her out of it, but like, I don't want to because she can't leave me. And like, you know, there's this fear and he always brings it up. And I'm like, dude, just stop.
You know, it's because of his control, this need to like control. And that's the whole reason he wanted the contract, was because he wanted to control the situation.
Yeah.
But what he doesn't realize is you can't control other people. Like you can't control her really. Yeah. But he's used to leading through fear, and that's not working here, right? And he doesn't want it to be fear. But when you can't lead through fear, what do you have?
Right.
He's like, never had anything else.
Yeah. He struggles with that, like, throughout most of this story. You can really see. And then as he finally, I mean, I think the last question I asked, I was like, why did it take him so long to say, I love you? Even though his entire inner monologue was how much he loved her. And she said it so early. I'm like, Hades, get with the program, man.
Vulnerability, man. It's just like, if I say it, you know, it's like, then it's real. And I think a lot of people are very much like that. Like, if I say it, then this can crumble, right? And he also knows that he has not built this on he knows he hasn't built it on any kind of like transparency,
right?
Too, so it doesn't feel real. It feels like fake. And she's very young too, so I think he's very much aware of that. Like, you know, if this is her first like relationship, like real like actual relationship with someone, she doesn't know what she thinks or believes, and so I think he's very much aware of like the you know, the dynamics going on here. He knows they're not favorable. Like, he holds the power, and it's kind of uncomfortable for him, and you know, everyone involved.
Do you think Hades thrives more in the chaos or the control? Like, actually, I mean, he'd probably say control, but
he would say control. I don't necessarily think he thrives in chaos, though, because look at the things that he does.
Right. Exactly.
But he is chaotic. And I describe that by, like, the way that I feel like I write him. Like, when I write him, I feel chaotic. I feel like my life goes to chaos. And I know that sounds crazy, but I do. Like, the whole time I was writing Retribution, I felt like my life was absolutely... like I had no ability to catch up with anything.
Right.
And his brain works like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, it just reflects his early life. He was born into chaos. And when you're born into chaos, all you do is seek control. And I think, you know, at first the underworld, the way that he could control the underworld was by making it like this sort of grim place where no one really had an identity. Because when everyone looks the same, everyone's a shade, you know, everyone has the same sort of, you know, routine every day. That's control.
Yeah.
And, you know, over time, he sort of learned, well, control can kind of look a little bit different. People can have these freedoms. But, you know, he still can't let go of certain elements in his life. The bargain is definitely a good example of that.
Yeah. And even, I mean, reading when he was explaining, again, his inner monologue that he did not explain to Persephone, but it was fine, was when he was talking about the river Styx. And he was saying, like, there was so many souls in there. And then at one point he was like, okay, yeah, actually, you know, certain ones, we finally had to divvy them up and certain ones had to go certain places. And I thought that was a really interesting way of, like, showing his growth. Like, and he didn't think of it that way, but he should have.
No, I don't. I think he thinks of it all as his path to attempting redemption was what he thinks. And because I think, you know, a lot of us feel like this, right? We are the last people to forgive ourselves for anything we've done, right? And I think he very much like falls into that category. So, yeah, I mean, I think Hades also falls into that trap where he doesn't believe certain information is necessary.
Yes.
And I see this a lot with, like, I was a manager for 3 years, and there are some people who don't have to know the why behind something.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell them to do it and they'll do it.
Yep.
Other people have to know why, like every step of the process, like how did we get to this decision?
Yes.
What am I going to be doing, you know, every day for the next like 2 weeks, and how does this impact us in the long run?
Yes.
And you know, Hades is the person that I don't have to tell you the why. I expect you to do as I say.
Right.
And you know, and I am that person. When I was a manager, I would tell people, like, I don't explain the why, so if you need it, you have to ask me.
Right.
You know, and Persephone is like a why person. She wants to know why. And you know,
yeah.
So that's how I see them.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I'm a why person, just because, like, if I get the full context and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like we can do all of these, because then it's like, but I think that's also like an insecurity for some people if they don't know that, if they, you know, if I don't know the why, I'm like, I don't know if I can do the task.
I think, and and when you manage people, right, or you rule people, you're supposed to be able to step back and kind of manage to those different, but when you have so much power, at some point, like, you don't have to do any of that. You just, you know,
you just tell them
what
like
to do. The CEO, you have minions who do that for you, right? And I think, like, you know, Hades kind of has been able to do stuff like that for his whole life, and learning how to choose what's important to say and what isn't important to say is really hard.
Yes.
Which is why he says the wrong things most of the time.
Yes.
So, you know, learning to communicate with people is actually very hard. In fact, I am someone, as a manager, I would have to tell people, like, you know, I'm a very direct person. So if you know, I'm probably going to hurt your feelings at some point. Unintentionally.
Right.
But if I do, I need you to tell me, because I did not intend to do it. And I think Hades is a lot like that. He's just like,
yeah, he is,
you know, chaos.
Except he wasn't very good at doing that with Minty. Like, he just
Minty is like a really bad, you know, like those, you see these movies where the guy has the one person that they just can't quite, you know, shake. That's Minty.
Yes.
But I do have to remind people that this is definitely like a story that's based on mythology. And in mythology, Minty was one of the people that Hades did cheat on Persephone with.
Yes.
And Persephone was the person who turned Minty into the mint plant. Yes. And so a lot of people are like, Hades never cheated. And I'm like, yes, he did. So that, mostly the fact that he can't let go of her or can't quite communicate with her, is honestly just a nod to the fact that he cheated on Persephone in mythology.
Right.
So it's kind of like that without the cheating, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's uncomfortable to think about, right? Because we really want Hades and Persephone to be like, you know, the couple, right?
Right.
But it's not the case, and it wasn't with Luce either. So
no. Well, and it's funny too, you bring up different myths, because something else I noticed was, well, it's another myth that I love, is obviously Eurydice and Orpheus. And in this story, he didn't give him the bargain about, you know, going back and letting, you know, seeing if she'll follow. He just kind of cut her off, and then Persephone proceeded to yell at him and leave. So was that kind of intentional, that you wanted that to be like a contentious thing between the two of them?
So I remember not wanting to do the bargain the same way. And I don't remember why, but I think it was because there was an alternate storyline in my brain from Hades' point of view. And there's a bonus chapter where he takes him there's a bonus scene. And there was more to that scene prior.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and it was just never in the story later. But I did remember not wanting to have the bargain traditionally brought up that way.
Yeah.
I had this idea in Ruin that Orpheus and Eurydice would have a storyline, and it didn't work out. This is how my brain works.
Fair.
But I still had that in my head, which is why I did the very short bonus scene for, I think it was Fate. But yeah, like in my brain later, like that, they kind of revisit that. And but on his own, Hades tells Orpheus that he could do that. The problem with that storyline in sort of my canon world is like Hades is going to have to bargain for a soul. If Orpheus actually does succeed, and Orpheus, he's going to have to pick the fates are going to choose someone else to die,
right?
And then he's going to have to explain why Eurydice is suddenly alive after she's been dead for several days,
right?
So it works against his favor. So that might have been ultimately why I decided it wouldn't work, and just went with the other thing, because I do try to stick with the rules of my world.
Yeah,
I just think reincarnating souls is so much more difficult in like the modern world than it would have been back then.
Yes, and it's funny too because it's brought up more in this story about the reincarnation, especially because we do see very early on a soul just completely get decimated and ruined, and and it was really interesting to see like that was kind of one of the first few tender moments of Hades being like really angry because that had happened and that poor soul got ruined, and so. That makes sense to me, that storyline. And it was actually in the bonus, at least on my Kindle, it's in the bonus, it's like the last chapter.
Good. I never know where it's at. I don't know.
I thought it was the bonus because it's in one of these. Isn't it in this one? The one where they're like talking and they talk about kids. That's in A Game of Fate. And he tells her about...
There is one. Yeah,
right?
about how they can't... Yeah, He bargained that away.
Yes. Oh yeah, compassion. See, yep, it's in. Okay, so there's difference in the physical versus the Kindle. What I'm like I know there is.
I can never remember.
I know.
Yeah. So, but I did have a planned. I was originally going to do. So actually, some of the scenes with Lexa were actually in my brain originally with Eurydice. Oh. And but I felt like it wasn't going to happen. Like I still knew that the Lexa stuff had to happen. And so I knew I had to pick one for Ruin, and it just didn't make sense to do Eurydice because that emotional connection really wasn't there. So
Lexa just makes sense.
And I knew that was always going to be a thing the way it happened, and so I had to pick something. But I always laugh when people ask me if I'm going to write about Orpheus and Eurydice because I'm like,
nah.
Well, I kind of did.
Yeah, I mean you already did, so it's like you don't really need to go there.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to.
But you are gonna write, and we had talked about this in our Patreon Zoom last week. You are gonna write an Aphrodite story, and I think what's really interesting was we had talked a lot about their marriage because their marriage is shown very much in A Game of Fate, and we were like, oh, the miscommunication trope, and you were like, no, that's not a trope, and I was like, you know what, it's a good point because with their relationship, it's so different, and viewing it from Hades' point of view, where he is so like clinically minded.
Oh God, I know. I don't know how it's going to shape up, but I do think a lot of Aphrodite and Hephaestus's issues come from their own insecurities.
Yes.
And so it's going to be interesting, but they have such a partnership, and and I can't wait to sort of explore the way that partnership works because it's like they. I know this isn't a Malice read, but in Malice where he's always at her side to help her with whatever she needs.
Yes.
And I think that devotion is so intriguing and it really shows their love. It's just that I think for Aphrodite, it's almost like she feels that she can't completely be beholden to one person because she is the goddess of love. And Hephaestus definitely feels like he is not worthy of her. Someone who was prized by so many men and given to him as a gift just so she wouldn't start wars over her beauty.
Right.
So they just have like this whole, these sort of lifetimes of instances where they have just not been kind to each other.
Right.
So I really cannot wait to explore that and see where it goes. And I've always been intrigued by particularly Hephaestus and Aphrodite. I think it's because Hephaestus is the underdog, and my vibe for Aphrodite and Ares is just that they're really good friends.
Yes.
And I do think that Hephaestus gets very jealous of that relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't typically like to do, like a lot of the hardcore jealousy stuff I like the possessive elements, but the jealousy, I think you can make a difference in possessive and jealous,
Yes.
kind of, you know?
Yes.
And, but Hephaestus is actually like legitimately jealous of Ares. So I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, and I really loved at the end of A Game of Fate when Hades, it tells him he doesn't need the ring anymore. And Hephaestus, you can tell, is someone who's a romantic. And he's like, no, I'm going to keep it. Like, you can come back. And it's like, oh, my heart.
Yeah, I wrote him going back in Retribution. It's really cute.
Okay, I'm really excited. How did you decide on what that ring was going to look like? Because it's like,
I don't fucking know.
It's like beautifully described. I was like, oh, look at it. Listen to this.
People ask me for sketches all the time, and I'm like, I don't really know.
You're like, please don't.
I just, so I knew Persephone is very simplistic, but Hades is not. And I knew Hades would want a ring, though, that represented his love for her.
Yes.
So basically, every time like she felt the weight of it on her finger, she would be like, you know, this is how much I'm loved.
That's cute.
So yeah, and the I remember the stones mean particular things. Don't ask me what they mean. I can't remember. But yeah, so I was very intentional with the stone choices. Yeah, and of course it's floral because Persephone and
right.
And you know, it's very representative too of a garden of life, like the garden that started their relationship. So there's a lot of symbolism there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
As is my usual.
Hey, but I could tell there was symbolism. I was like, oh, there's like this is, but also
if only I could remember it.
No, but it makes sense for like Hades to be very like he knows exactly what he wanted when he like walked in.
Yeah, he did. And you know, well, okay, I won't go down that rabbit hole. Well, I'll stay back.
Oh.
I was like, this is not a Malice spoiler. This is a
no. We can listen. We can talk about Malice later because I'm sure you get yelled at for Malice because
I do. It's fine.
I
don't care.
It's fine. People can be patient. I was patient for almost 2 years for this. Okay,
here's the thing.
You can be patient, people.
If you do not know patience unless you've been with me from the red cover of A Touch of Darkness.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
That's when you know you've been patient.
Yeah. No, seriously. And then going back to the bargain with Persephone, do you think if he didn't give her the bargain, she would have gone back to him, like just out of curiosity? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, she totally would have. She had a story to write, man. She really liked him. But
listen, she definitely did.
There was a thrill.
Yeah,
to that.
There was the best is like the confirmation that he was in the room, like because you know when you read A Touch of Darkness, you're like, I don't know, is she imagining this? No, girl, you weren't. Like.
I knew everyone wanted to know if that was true, and I was like, I'm gonna have a compromise. It's gonna be like a projection thing. And I was so like, after I write those, I feel like I go into like this weird mode when I write those scenes, and then when I read them later, I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, where the hell?
Yeah, because you
get these words.
Because you write some good spice, especially with Hades. I'm always like, dang, girl.
It takes so much for me to write a sex scene from a male point of view.
That makes sense.
Because I feel like it's just different, and I hope it's different enough. But I always have to go back into this mindset of like, this is different. They like men think about sex different, and so it's very difficult. But because I am not a man.
Right. And Hades has sex on the brain all the time, which, you know what, makes
sense. In A Game of Fate, definitely.
Yeah.
Which was so funny, and some people hate it so much, and I'm
really?
Like, whatever. But it cracks me up. But, you know, I also look at him as someone who obviously he's a man. And then secondly, you know, Persephone is like his soulmate, and
exactly,
you know, he's waited centuries for this.
It's different. Like let the man get a little excited.
Yeah, let him have it, and then, you know, Retribution, he is too busy with other shit to really think, you know, much about.
Well, that would make sense because
ever 5 seconds.
In a lot of Ruin, I was like, where the hell is he right now? Like,
yeah, well, you'll find out, and it's
he's
not good.
yeah, I was
None
gonna
of it's
say
good.
he's messing around. Oh, and then
None of it's good.
none of it's good. Oh, and then because I tried to look this up because I didn't know the actual story, but I was curious, like in your own canon world, what do you think is the reason Demeter hates Hades so much?
In my world,
Yeah.
she kind of, I mean, so she kind of goes into it. It's like in Malice.
She goes into it a little bit, I remember.
Yeah, it's kind of just like the blame. It's kind of like a blanket blame for what happened to her with
Right.
Poseidon. And then the other part you have to remember is that Demeter is a narcissist, and she likes to be the center of attention. But it folded into that is this wish to possess, like Persephone, and be needed and loved by her. And when Persephone no longer needs her, that is such a huge loss to Demeter. Right. And she knew from the beginning that when Persephone was born, she was born for Hades.
Right.
And so that planted the seed of that anger and that fear that Persephone, who, you know, she wanted a daughter so badly, mostly because she wanted to be needed. She had like a mental, like this mental need to be needed by someone. She knew that was going to be like shifted onto Hades in her brain. So a big part of it is just her mental illness. And you know, and I say all that because I personally know what that's like with my mom. Right. My mom is bipolar and narcissist. And, you know, she has the need to be the center of attention. She has the need to be needed. And sometimes there's a lot of pity I have and sort of sadness I have for people who need to be the savior. Right. Because, you know, that's the only way they find value. Right. So it really just comes from that. And that need to be like the center of that person's universe and to be the savior, to be the person that's needed, affects every part of that person's life. So when Demeter said, like, you cannot go out into the world, like you cannot have friends, it was so Persephone would be beholden to her. So to just let her go a little bit, like to let her go to college was like a huge deal. Right. And for a long time, Persephone was too afraid to sort of step outside of those boundaries, you know? Yeah. And that kind of mimics my own life as well. Like being too afraid to sort of, my mom let me go to college. And, you know, when I would step outside of the boundary that she set for me, she would yell at me. And suddenly, like, I changed since I went to college. And, you know, I was so mean and hateful. And so it's a lot of emotional manipulation. So it really does come from that sort of, you know. Yeah.
Because it was interesting, like I remembered like the blanket, like her with Poseidon at least, and I was like, so is it, you know, was there something specific? But you know, then you do have to remember like who she is, and it most likely is just, you know, she wants Persephone all for herself, which you see how it has affected Persephone. I mean, that's half the reason this bargain exists, because she didn't have the confidence.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, it was so interesting when you look at it, because if Demeter had just not let her fear take root, she would have had a great relationship with Persephone, and Persephone could have had Hades. And in Malice, Persephone says that, like, you could have had all of it, and you know, she chose not to. And I look at that same thing with, you know, my mom too. You know, if you had not been this way, we could be, you know, we could be in a different situation now. So yeah, a lot of that just comes from my personal experience with what it's like to grow up with a narcissistic narcissistic bipolar mother. And I think sometimes my mom made a lot of things evil for no reason, you know. I could we would watch like fantasy like movies and stuff, and she'd be like, you know, that's not real, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know it's not real, but I want escapism, Mom.
Right.
Like, you know,
like there's nothing wrong with like going to these worlds and escaping and finding joy in it. And it's like, just let me love it.
Right. So yeah, I know her motivations I know some people like probably don't think that person can exist in real life, but there are moms like Demeter in real life. And, you know, so it's a thing. A lot of us are born of narcissistic mothers. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, luckily my mother is not, but I understand the situation because I have been around narcissistic parents before, and it's a challenge, and you see those kids struggle because they feel beholden to their parent, and it's like, no, like, you need to explore the world. You need to,
it's a huge guilt thing, and then if you try to step outside of that, the sort of family unit you come from, they feel betrayed, and they'll do anything to make you feel like you failed, even when you're the most successful one of the group. So,
yeah. And I wonder, because, going to the insecurities, the one thing I found really interesting was, we kind of talked about this, but I thought it was funny how there would be this massive paragraph of like Hades explaining his inner monologue about why he does something, and then it's a response to Persephone's question, which is like a very simple question, and then he would not really answer it and like not really tell her like the whole thing, and I was like, why?
I know.
Especially initially, he got better towards the end, but like initially, and I don't know if it was he just didn't know if he could trust her or if he just didn't want to reveal too many of his cards so soon.
I think it's a combination. I also think that this is a result of like when you write a book from 2 points of view, you have to like when you go back to it, you're thinking like, in your brain, you're like, why the fuck didn't you just say it? Yeah. So you have to build up a reason for like why he would be quiet. Sense. And I don't know that it's not so much the trust. I don't know that, well, it's trust in that she won't understand him. Like there's this huge fear that he feels, and she doesn't, honestly. Yeah. Like, cause look at Ruin. Look at what happens in Ruin. So I think he just is like, no one ever understands my motivation. So why would she?
Right.
Like no one understands how the underworld operates. So why would she? She asks him at one point when they're the game of poker before, or blackjack, I think, before, the sexy scene. She asks him like, why don't you care what people think? Like, because you're not like this person. And it drives me insane that you let people think this about you. But he does, because what's he going to do? Like, how is he going to change their minds? They already have this idea in their head about him. So, I just think he's really set in his ways. People who are old, I would think of my dad, they're really stubborn and they're really set in how they think. And it's very hard to change their mind.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt about Hades. Like it was so hard to change his mind, but he had good reason to always doubt himself. I felt like for a while, because Persephone's behavior was the same, right?
Right.
I think that happens when you aren't friends first and you jump into a relationship. Like they kind of jumped into a relationship.
No, yeah.
Like it was like
there was no stop.
Instead of having like this time where you sort of get to know each other's motivation.
Yeah.
They're like having sex and trying to learn each other, and it's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
By Malice, I think they're trying so hard like to be good. And it's working.
I think that was the funny thing too, because I remember reading Malice and being like, oh, this is like the first time I feel like they're like a couple, like, like they're really like in the groove. Whereas the other ones, I was like, okay, you guys need to take a step back and like talk to each other and communicate, and then we're gonna get here. And
I know,
but also like I'm not complaining.
I think Ruin is so interesting because a lot of people talk about how who you've married or who you're with when they go through a huge event, a huge traumatic event. And so it was weirdly timely for me to write Ruin. I think I explained in our other event, like I wrote it I published it in April of 2020, and I lost my dad in November of 2020, and they were very similar losses. Yeah. And I talk about how Ruin helped me let my dad go. But I just felt like writing that trajectory, their relationship trajectory, I couldn't have Persephone try to become queen of the underworld without knowing what it was like to lose someone.
Right.
And to do it wrong. Yeah. Because how are you going to be queen of the underworld and tell people how to do it right unless you've really fucked up? Because there was no understanding of rules for the underworld.
Yeah.
And you can see in Malice how she fights for his side. And I don't
Yeah.
think she could have gotten there without
No.
experiencing it herself.
Yeah, no. I think as a reader, initially when you go into Ruin, you're like a little irritated with Persephone, and then you quickly realize she had to go through that. She had to experience that to be who she is, and it's such a rewarding thing to go through with her.
I think so.
I think so too.
I'm glad you think so.
Yeah.
I know it was frustrating. I know there was a lot of frustrating things about Ruin. But I just felt like as a character,
She had to
how
go
do you
through
learn?
it.
How do you go from like who you are in Touch of Darkness, a woman who has divine blood but doesn't feel divine at all, to having a essentially a boyfriend, I don't like to call Hades that, who encourages you to embrace your divinity
Yeah.
in his world,
Right.
how do you even learn how to do that without learning what it means to lose?
Right.
You're going to be queen of the underworld. You're going to be queen of people who have lost,
Right.
and you're going to be accessible to the upper world.
Right.
That's scary,
Yeah. It's an interesting, I think that's the thing that people forget about characters like Persephone is like we have to let her experience these moments so that she can be who she was always intended to be. Like she can't be perfect the entire time.
Well, she was. I would get a lot of complaints about how perfect she is all the time and how self-righteous she is. But, also, and I realize it's not an easy journey to go through.
No.
It's not like I enjoyed going through the journey either, right? Like,
right.
I think there's this presumption that, writers write things without being irritated with their characters or without, like, thinking you're really stupid right now. But trust me, like, we think those things, but...
Right.
There's a character arc for a reason.
Right.
And that's just how I felt she had to get there. I don't know. And maybe someone else would write it differently, but this is my version of these retellings. So
yeah.
how I did it.
I mean, it is funny when you go and I mean, I have read other Hades and Persephone retellings, and it is interesting to see the different way in which like people approach things. But the one thing I always appreciated was seeing how you handled Persephone dealing with death, because I think it's something that we don't always see with that character. We just, she just becomes queen, and it's important to see her go through that process.
Well, I think a lot of people would make Persephone like a very righteous character, but I think she's morally gray.
Yeah.
And how, what's the descent into morally gray? Well, you have to be hurt to be morally gray.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that she's morally gray because of mythology.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So no one turns someone into a mint plant if they are not morally gray. I'm sorry. Like,
regardless of the reasoning behind it.
Regardless.
Another thing I thought was really interesting was early on, I think it's like the first time Persephone interacts with, do you say her name? I always say Hecate, but that's not right, is it?
It's Hecate, but you can say Hecate. That's fine. I just think that if anytime we're trying to pronounce words from mythology, they don't have H's. So just ignore the H.
Okay. I mean, I like it. Like, listen, that's better than what I thought.
Hephaestus is not Hephaestus, it's Hephaestus, right?
Okay.
But whatever. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares?
It was but I was really interesting because he was watching the two of them interact and he wanted to interrupt, but then he also kept saying like how important it was that she falls in love with the underworld before, that they were two separate things. And I thought it was really interesting that that was the route instead of, because I feel like a lot of people think of love as, home is where the heart is. It's not necessarily two separate things, but he wanted her to, I guess, like, my question is, like, was there a reasoning behind you wanting her to fall in love with the underworld versus, just falling in love with Hades, which then makes you fall in love with the underworld?
I think it's twofold. I think he felt like if she fell in love with the underworld, at least she wouldn't leave completely.
Right. Okay.
But also, the underworld is something that is so demonized. Just any kind of afterlife is demonized by religion generally.
Yes.
So I think that his hope was that she would see that it's not so evil. And he doesn't care what anyone thinks but her, obviously, because he knows they're tied to fate. And so her opinion matters. So I really think it's as simplistic as those two things. It was, she can see that this is, people are happy here. This is this is a good place despite what you hear, what your mom has told you.
Right.
And then also if you fall in love with it, at least I won't lose you completely. Because honestly, the whole time Hades is like doing anything with her this whole time, in his brain, he is like, the bargain that I struck with Aphrodite is still in existence and I am fucked. Yeah. So yeah.
And
I don't know that he ever believed any of it was real. But for him, he's like, I'm going to treasure this time. Because when she finds out the reality, she's going to leave.
Yeah, because when he did, that was actually something that was really interesting about the bargain with Aphrodite, or the deal that he made with her, was, you know, it was always in the back of his mind, but by the time Aphrodite confronts him and is like, yeah, so I told her about it.
And she's fucked. She's like, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah, like she gets really upset, which I was like, oh, okay, glad to see a little glimmer of heart. Like, you know, okay, good job.
Aphrodite is a lot like Hades. They're very similar in how they.
I like that friendship. Like, it's like a weird. It's like a weird.
There's a really great scene in Retribution with them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to sneak them in. They don't have huge roles, but they are. Hephaestus and Aphrodite both are in Retribution, and I'm very glad for it.
So. But Helios plays a pretty big role in this one.
Oh my god, I hate him. Helios. Actually, Helios is just like, has one scene, just like. But I knew when I wrote in like A Game of Fate, that whole sequence.
Yes.
I was like, he's gonna come back and be like a vengeful little bitch, and he is. And what I think is interesting about Hades' point of view is if you've read Malice, you know there's just a bunch of stuff under the surface happening.
Yes.
And you can see it happening in Hades' point of view. Like, you have more insight. And when I was writing Retribution, I was like, this motherfucker is responsible for so much shit that goes down. And what's interesting, I'm like being a nerd right now, but
it's okay.
So I just thought it would be very interesting to see, because I always, if you look at mythology, Helios sides with the Olympians instead of the Titans, but Helios is a Titan. And I always thought that just meant he was like afraid. Like, he's just a fucking little, you know, afraid. He's just afraid. So he's going in this world. He wants to side with the people that are going to give him the most power and the most, you know, the people he thinks are going to win.
Yep.
And so anyways, it's just a fun little thing to just like, you know, think of how much of a coward he really is, you know, because Helios has nothing to stand for. No. He stands for nothing.
No.
You know.
And you can see that multiple times in this story. Like, you know, when you see him, when he goes to talk to him, it's like, dude, come on, just give me the answer. But he's like, I don't really need to. And you're like, you suck.
Well, and the hard part with that was, so I feel like when you're writing Greek mythology retellings, if you're kind of staying true to mythology, you can use any excuse that's absurd to not get your answer. Right. And I knew, I was like, oh, I've got to include Helios, but I've got to have a really good reason that he won't give Hades this answer. And I was like, it's just because he's an asshole at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's very fitting for his character.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I recognize, like, I think some people would view that as like cutting corners, but I just think it's a nice way to play upon myth, like traditional myth.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I
don't know. I mean, and then that chapter then goes into his interaction with Poseidon, which I thought was really interesting, that at least it felt to me like Hades had more anger towards Poseidon than Zeus.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's because some part of it I think I haven't quite discovered yet, but I definitely think in part that for Hades, Poseidon has caused the most grief. And
that makes sense.
I have this storyline that I think will play a role. So the reason I say I don't know that much of it's been revealed for me, but what I think happens is, so I don't know if you know much about Oklahoma and sex trafficking, but we have our highways meet here. All the major highways across the United States meet in Oklahoma. So it's a huge center for sex trafficking. And in fact, I believe that a woman, a girl who was abducted in Texas, was found in an Oklahoma hotel, and it, so awful. And one of the things I want to draw attention to is that in particular, but via the story of Medusa and Athena. And I think Poseidon has a huge role in that. And we all know how Hades feels about women and protecting them. Yes. And I think that that's why his anger is so intense. But I'm very afraid to write that because I want to do a very good job, and I want to bring attention to the right. I want to advocate for it in the correct way. I'm always afraid when I take on topics like that. I want to do it very well. So I'm hoping by that time I can do something like, proceeds can go to, something that benefits sex trafficking, but it's a huge thing here. And I would really love to draw positive attention to help women, because there are signs you can look for. A woman came in and talked, and there are signs at different hotels, like you can kind of tell where women are being held at hotels based on certain things. So anyways, I think that is probably why, even though Hades really hates Zeus, the problem with Zeus is that he has a lot of say at the moment. So Hades can't express a lot of outward anger towards Zeus because of his power over Hades, inevitable marriage to Persephone. So he sees Zeus as like someone he can placate until he gets what he wants. Yeah. But he also thinks, like, for retribution, I can't move against him until I have to have everything control. Remember, everything has to be in alignment before I move against him. Whereas Hera is just going to go for it. Poseidon just goes for it. Right. And they fail every time. That's his point. You fail every time. So it is deeper, but in my brain, I have like a thread.
That makes sense.
Like, I have a thread.
No. That makes total sense, because I was trying to piece together what it was, because I feel like a lot of times it's like, we're ganging up on Zeus. Like, let's just, we want that guy down. But I was like, there's an underlying story here that I was missing. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. I think, like, you get a little bit of, Medusa as a character is not introduced in Retribution, but she's mentioned. So in A Game of Gods, like, she becomes one of the characters, and then her story can branch off into her and Athena's story. But so it's all kind of like Tetris in my head.
That makes sense.
So but I do think I think Hades knows that Poseidon is up to some really bad shit when it comes to women, sex trafficking, and
he's got no
not
patience
good.
For that.
No, he doesn't. But I also think that Hades is very clever in how he chooses to take people down.
Yes.
So, long explanation for.
No. Someone asked, which I know you get this, but how many books will the total of the two series be? So the Hades saga.
7, I think. Yeah, 7, right?
Okay, yeah. That's the 3, the 3 in the Hades saga, right?
Yeah, Darkness, Fate, Ruin, Retribution, Malice, Gods, Chaos. Chaos is dual point of view.
Right.
And I do get asked a lot, like, why aren't they all dual point of view? And my answer is there's just no way. I think they both have individual stories to tell up until Chaos. And that's when they start to work together really well and communicate really well.
Good for
them.
them.
I just think, thank fuck. We finally got there, y'all. Right. It only took a war. It only took a war. Whatever, we're here.
Yeah, because I think it is funny, like, especially, for this month, like, I was like, we were really trying to get people to read A Game of Fate, and so many people were like, but isn't it just a touch of darkness? And I was like, no, it is not.
I know. It's so irritating. I am like, and once you read Retribution, you'll just be like, what the fuck? This is not even, it's not even this. The only thing I think that really resembles is toward the end where we're dealing with the grief and the loss. Okay. But God, that middle part, like the beginning. In fact, the tandem reading guide for it is absolutely ridiculous because it's so hard. Yeah, it's so hard to line up, like, because it's not the same book. I can't even begin. Like, I can see how you can look at A Game of Fate and be like, a lot of those chapters sort of overlap, but A Game of Retribution is just, and A Game of Gods, is going to be completely different because it will have Theseus, Dionysus, and Hades' point of view.
Okay.
Because I haven't met Dionysus and Ariadne yet, but once you do, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay. Okay. I get that.
So
that makes sense.
I know it's like I said, it's Tetris in my head. People will probably, I think if you're a really diehard fan of what I did here, you'll think it's the best thing ever. And if you're not, you'll just be like, what the fuck is she doing? But in my head, it makes sense.
No. Well, and what's funny too was, so my favorite chapter in A Touch of Darkness is when she goes to Aphrodite's club, because I just love.
Oh yeah, love Rose.
Oh, I just love when he comes in and like it just that.
When he's a possessive.
Yeah,
you know.
I know,
Yeah.
right? It's like, it's always those moments. It makes no sense, but it is.
Hey, you know what? In our fiction, I can have a possessive man.
Yes. Out in the real world, hell no.
Yeah.
Not
In
gonna
the
fly.
world, I'm gonna be like, you need to remember who I am.
Exactly. No, exactly. That's like the only time in this book, and they're like, you would not, and I'm like, no, I would not put up with that.
Yeah, but in books, like even I am like, fuck you. Like I like to be alone, like, but in books, I am like, give me someone who tells me like you're
Yes.
mine and I'm keeping you forever. And I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah. They always laugh. Like, my favorite moments in books are when the main character gets stabbed, or like something bad, like mortal if something bad is happening to you and your lover is around, sign me up.
Like Malice. Okay,
yes.
So
yes.
One of the bonus scenes I'm going to write, there's going to be a lot of bonus shit for Chaos because it's like the last book, but one of them is what happens after, like Hephaestus and Aphrodite leave the battlefield. Cannot wait.
Yes, even when like something happened to Persephone and he was like, I got you, I was like, keep going, like keep going.
She just like scratches her leg and he's like, the world is ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me carry you into Neverland.
Yeah. But the thing that I really loved about this one, which I'm like, Hades, I swear to God, because my favorite part about Touch of Darkness is she wakes up and she's naked and she's like, did we? And he's like, no. But they cuddled in this and he didn't admit it. He didn't admit that that's what they did. I was like, Hades, you're so stupid.
I know. But he just like, he's so, first of all, I think he's angry, but he's also like, I think it's painful for her to be so mortified.
Yes.
And so he's like, I don't want to add to my mortification. Like, I don't want to add to my pain.
Literally, when she was like, yeah, nothing. He's like, nothing happened. I'm like, no. You cuddled.
No, I know. And I remember being like, oh God, you have to write what actually happened. Like, you have to write like her being really forward and she's not ready for it, but the alcohol
and he's like
working.
trying to like clothe her. It's the best.
I forgot all about that. Oh my God.
It's literally, it's so good. It's funny. You can see when I stopped, I think that chapter has one quote because I was paying attention and I was like, I'm now just enjoying.
I always have that theory, when you look at ebooks and you can see like all the underlined stuff at the beginning and toward the end there's nothing. I'm like, it's because they couldn't stop reading.
Yes. And it's the same thing with mine. Like, I had all these great questions in the beginning and then at the end I was like, shit.
I have nothing.
I have nothing because I've been just paying attention and like on this ride and yelling at Hades and being like, just listen. Like, God.
I know. He is so.
But I love him. I love him.
Hecate, even in Retribution, gives him so many gems. Like, I think we all kind of know how Retribution begins, which is like kind of like a bargain with Hera. Yeah. And at one point, Hecate is like, why are you letting her determine whether or not you get married? Like, you're gonna do it anyway. Like, what the fuck? Like, who the fuck are you at this point? So it's kind of that question of like, when you're powerful, who do you answer to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even like, oh wait, where was it? Oh yeah, there it was. He's cuddling, but he never shows it. Oh, and then that was the one thing I did want to ask is when or how do you decide to show those tender moments? Because obviously that wasn't in A Touch of Darkness, but that was something that you were like, okay, yeah, I want to see this little tender moment. Is it just something that feels like it naturally flows in the story, or there's still things that you're like, we don't need to see that?
Yeah, so I think it's like, I don't know, because it just has to be something that feels like it fits with the story. Because there's a scene. Did you read the Cosmo article, the NSFW Cosmo article that came out for Retribution?
No.
There's
now I will.
There's a snippet of a sex scene from Retribution in there, and it's not in Ruin. And
okay, great. So
yeah, well, and I thought, I don't know, it was like, it just made sense from Hades' point of view, because
listen, I'll listen to him.
You're like, I'll figure it out.
I'll let him have a moment.
Well, I think it is just like with the what makes sense in the story. So you know how he has that picture of her on his desk?
Yes.
So she asks him, like, do you have a camera? And he's like, yeah, I take pictures. And I was like, what the fuck? Because this is me like figuring this out too. I'm like, I am like figuring this out along with her.
Like, what a creep, but also kind of cute.
I know. It is cute for him though. It would be really fucking creepy if he was like, I don't know, Elias taking it or something. But
you get a pass because you're Hades. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I had a panel about morally gray characters with Cian Crawford, and she was like, our moderators were like, so how, what's acceptable to be a morally gray character? And she's like, you have to be really hot. And I'm like, that's true. You have to be hot.
Yeah, you can't be ugly.
You're ugly. Yeah, it was just so stupid, but it's true for our dark romance. He has a picture of her, and she's like, when did you take this? And she's in the garden, and he just thinks it's very like pretty moment. And so when she gets to the underworld that evening, she's like, what? Oh, like, what's up? Where's this camera? And so they use the camera while they have sex
and have a good time.
Yeah. And so there's the scene, and it didn't make sense in Ruin for some reason, but it made perfect sense in this. So
wait, but does she get some photos of him? Because come on, equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you have to read it, obviously. I don't know what chapter it was. I can't remember.
It's fine.
But
I also the one thing I did want to ask, because for anyone, if you haven't gotten a copy, you will get a copy officially on Tuesday. But my favorite is the dedication that this book was running.
So embarrassed.
What do you mean? It's a great dedication. Have you seen the dedication in Savage Lands?
No.
That one says this is dedicated to Jason Momoa because he's literally the love interest in this. Like, so don't worry. Okay, that whole series is because she just wanted Jason Momoa.
This one is literally, this book was brought to you by Hosier and a really good editor.
Yeah.
Krista, my editor. Well, let me tell you.
Incredible.
I've explained this a little bit. I did not write to anything else but Hosier this whole fucking time. And I don't know what it is, but even my friends thought I was absolutely fucking insane. Because, like, I would be writing, and then I would be like, then I would listen to, like, lyrics, and then I'd be like, what is this song about? And then I would go read the lyrics, and I'd be like, because there's one song, I'm just going to go down this Hosier rabbit hole.
I was going to say, wait, no, I love this because that's all I listen to when I wake up in the morning, and now I've gotten my mom addicted, and I go downstairs, and I'm like, you can't listen to Cherry Wine like 10 times. Like, woman, change the song.
Okay, but let's just have a moment where we appreciate how Hosier can sing anything and make it sound like the most sexual song in the entire fucking world.
Yes.
And he talks about how movement song is about dancing, and I'm like, that song is about sex, Hosier.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. You literally have a line where you say, when you move, I move. And I'm like, that is sex.
Yeah, don't say it's, what? Okay,
Don't say, it's a song about dancing. Okay, dancing.
Yeah,
like,
your label told you to say that. Shut up.
Yeah. I'm like, well, no. So there was just something about that. I literally wrote most of this book. I think 60K of this book was written because of that music. It was the only thing that helped me focus.
So does that mean like your playlist for this book is just Hosier?
No, my play. So I wrote the first 40K with my actual retribution playlist, which is really depressing. It's super fucking depressing. And then I got to a point where I couldn't really like listen to it anymore because I use playlists to sort of get into the vibe of the book.
Yeah.
And then there was something about like, I don't know, like the song Talk mentions Orpheus and Eurydice.
Yes.
And then I was like, so at first I was just listening to the sound, and then I started listening to the actual lyrics, and I was like, damn, this is Hades. He is such an unreliable narrator. He is someone who is saying one thing but thinking a whole other thing about how like he'll act all like one word, like he'll answer one word and then he'll be like, but I really want to fuck you in my head. And I was like, that's how Hades is.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, I was just like, damn, this is Hades. And what I think is so funny is some of Hosier's fans like think he's like basically Hades reincarnated.
Okay, so it wins. There we go.
Yeah.
That's like a win.
Yeah. So it works. But anyways, I just thought how creepy that I dedicated a book to Hosier.
It's not creepy. It's not creepy.
It's creepy.
I mean, listen.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
You can tell me.
You know what? We can like show it to him and have him sign it. Can we have him just sign that page? And that's it.
But, and then tell him like, he can't read it unless he likes sex in his books, and that would be really awkward.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But whoever meets Hosier,
please
first.
Yeah, please bring a game of Retribution to
Maybe
the concert.
don't. Actually, I'm not making this request because I'm so embarrassed. In fact, I actually thought of it as a joke, and I was like, wouldn't it be hilarious to my friends if I dedicated this book to Hosier, because you guys know I couldn't focus to anything at all. And they were like, do it. And I was like, I should do it. And then I was like, I did it. And I feel so stupid.
I mean, honestly, it's okay. Like, I don't think it's weird.
I want to be clear that I'm a fan of Hosier's music. I think it's so interesting when there's fandom, because I'm like, there's a difference between being a fan of the person and a fan of the thing they produced. And I'm like, music, yes. I don't know. He seems like a cool person, but I don't know him as a person. Yeah. So Hosier as in the music.
Yeah. Just to clarify. I realized because we've been talking for an hour, I haven't done the giveaway. So I'm like, I have to give away the book. So I'm just going to tell everyone, because this is the way we're doing it. Go, if you want to enter in the giveaway, just please make sure that you comment in the next like 5 minutes, and then I will let you guys know at like, for me, it's 8:18, so like 8:25 I'll just like pick someone from the winner, and then whoever I pick, just message one of our moderators so we can get your address and everything, and I'm gonna send it over, and then you can tell us what you want for your I think their name is gonna be on it, and something else, probably something fun. I think is the plan, right?
I'll do whatever.
Okay, sounds good, as long as it's something from your book. I saw you say that. You're like, I'm not writing anything that's not from my book. So when I see
I had to say, okay, I just feel bad if people like request something and I can't do it. And I had like a Latin quote that's not mine at all, obviously. And then a quote from a beautiful prayer to Persephone, but I can't do that because So I just wanted to be like, hey y'all, like, not that I don't want to do this, but don't feel comfortable.
So when I see you in a Polycon, I'll be like, hey, so this really dirty quote from Hades, I'm going to want you to...
Right now I've been signing it as get wet, daddy death, which is a Hermes quote.
Yes!
There's a scene where like he has to shower, and then Hermes like brushes gold dust on his abs. So dumb.
No, but like I kind of
love it. And I love it. It's like the best thing ever. Yeah. So
I mean, so Hermes mentions in this book that he's got like a fantasy with Hades. He's like, don't ruin this for me. This is like one of my top 5 fantasies. What are like some of his other fantasies?
Have you ever seen that post I did about his top 5 fantasies? Which is like,
no.
Oh yeah, there's a post on my Instagram. Let's see if I can find it, because it's like pirate role play.
Someone said sparkly death daddy. Honestly, winning.
No, I don't. What is I need more context.
It's like It was when he wait, but I just love. It's when Hermes
Oh,
gave,
is it the gold?
well, no, it's when he gave him the gray sweatpants. He's like, here. And he like puts them on and he's like, this is one of my fantasies right
He
now.
references that in Retribution, and it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious. Anyways, he's like, I'm gonna see if I can find it and read it for you guys.
That's fine.
That will be your little snippet. I'm trying to find the top 5 fantasies because I think they're hilarious, and then I'll share it to my stories.
Okay, good.
Because it's always a hit. But
the other thing,
and I love it.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. It was something about Hermes, and now I'm blanking. It'll come to me.
One of my favorites.
Okay, I'm just reading some of these comments. Very excited. Oh, Hermes cracks me up. He acts sort of like a big brother, and I love that storyline. Yeah, he does to Persephone. It's really cute.
I found it. Oh my God.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna add it to my stories. Okay, so number 1. Force them with the 3, even though Zeus is a dick and his father ? Number 1. Number 2, threesome with Hades and Ares. Number 3,
pure chaos. That one.
Number 3 is replace email. Number 4 is submissive sex with Hades.
So it's just Hades.
Number 5 is pirate roleplay. No one specified.
Just pirate roleplay.
Yeah. You know why I wrote that? Someone asked me on Tumblr what his top 5 fantasies were, and I was like,
Are you still on Tumblr?
I am. I don't get on very much now, but that's one of the early ways I would market A Touch of Darkness.
So smart.
Yeah, it worked out really well. I'm going to show this to my story so people can see it. Yeah. And I'm just going to be like unearthing this gem.
Yeah, like please look at this. Okay, guys, you have about 2 more minutes, and then I'll go ahead and pick a winner. And then hold on, let me just pull up. Oh, are they messaging me? Okay, good. They're not. I was like, sometimes my mods will be like, Sarah, hurry up. And I'll be like, I'm sorry. We're talking.
Oh. What was there something you? Oh, I was gonna look for that scene because I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
If you guys want it.
Yeah, no. For sure.
Yeah, no.
No, I do want it. Oh yeah, I literally put what? Hermes? That was literally the line that I put in my notes. I love him. I was like, what did I put in here? Oh, we answered that one. We talked about why it took him so long to say I love you. I have a rock, paper, scissors question for you.
Oh my God. Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. Who would you want to play? Hades?
Oh. He was bad at it, wasn't he?
Yeah, he sucked.
Hades. When he sucks, because he sucks at it.
Yeah.
I love having them play things from modern times, like rock, paper, scissors, and Egyptian rat screw. And then and the what I wrote about how he won, I literally watched in real life in college. My friend and my boyfriend were playing ERS, and my boyfriend was like, I'm gonna come back with this card, and he fucking did. And I was like, you are a cheater. But yeah, so that was a real life thing that actually happened.
The other thing, which this kind of goes with the just pure chaos of this conversation. So Thanatos reveals that he doesn't like Hades' hair. What is another unpopular opinion? Do you think so? And I love how it comes back later in the book. Like, he brings it. He's like, bet he wouldn't like Poseidon's hair right now. Anyways.
I know. It's like, I love how petty they are. Like, it's just such a, I love it so much. So I just to note that is actually like a play on mythology, because the way that Sisyphus escapes from the underworld the second time is that he manages to chain Thanatos up and escape the underworld. Yes. So that's my reference to mythology. Another unpopular opinion about Hades. There'd probably be like something about his shoes.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Probably like, or socks, like the socks that he like. Maybe his socks are like horribly patterned or something, or like he chooses the worst socks.
Exactly. Okay, let's see. I'm like doing this like randomizer, so that's how we're picking a winner. Yeah. All right. Congrats to Emma.
I found it.
Okay. Emma Laporte, Laporte. Congratulations. Just go ahead and message one of the moderators either on Discord or in here to give us your address and then like something fun you want signed in the book. It is the Indigo Kingdom, King of Battle and Blood.
Oh, we're doing King of Battle and Blood?
Yeah, it's that. Yeah. That's what we decided.
Yes.
So
I have plenty.
The red one, it's so pretty.
It is beautiful. And the QMM is black and it's so pretty. Yeah, it's so pretty. It's going to complement the red one very nicely. So,
oh, that's good.
The reason I'm looking over here is because I can see my shelf of all my copies.
You're like, there it is.
They're so beautiful.
Yeah. Hey, listen, JLA has like her shelves and all they are her books and then like little memorabilia. And I'm like, that's a win.
Been publishing for so many fucking years, like has so many copies. Like I cannot even.
But her From Blood and Ash is just like one shelf.
Yeah. I started following her when she had like 400 followers on Facebook. I'm that reader, like the reader that messages me and says like, I've been following you since you had like,
that's a win.
Yeah, I know. And I loved, like I started with the Lux series and I loved it.
Yes.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, it's okay. We're reading Dark Elements for over the summer because not enough people have read that and it irritates the living hell out of me.
Just spread the wealth, spread the love.
I'm like, Roth is like literally the best.
And I will say, I haven't read From Blood and Ash yet. I am one of those people. I don't read series until they're complete.
Fair.
But I've read all her other stuff, and it was so weird to me when people were like, "Have you heard of JLA?" And I'm like, "Yes, motherfucker. Like, yes, I have been reading her since a long time. Let's just put it that way." Like years.
Yeah.
So it was really funny when everyone was like, From Blood and Ash. Like, I've never heard of this author before. And I was like,
shut up.
Yeah. I shouldn't be like, I have been here for a long time.
Been there, done that. I'll be curious to see what you think of From Blood and Ash because I love it. I mean, it's very different. I think it's cool, but the writing is really different compared to her modern ones. And so when I went back to her modern, I was like, whoa. Like this is
I wonder how it'll be because I feel like for there's something nostalgic about reading her old, like her Frigid isn't that old, but that's like one of my favorites. Like I know, like I don't know if anyone's read Frigid, but I just love it so much.
That's
fair. Like, and so it's kind of I don't know. It will be interesting. She's so good at building sexual tension in her books, and that's what I'm invested in.
Yeah, well, and her Mortal Peril that she's written, I think, like, my mom has been in the car with me, and she's like, "Are you just listening to a stabbing scene?" I'm like, "Yeah, stop. Like, just stop. Okay,
just let it happen for now."
Yeah. But it is funny because, like, my mom's finishing one of the From Blood and Ash books right now. She's like, "What should I read next?" And I was like, "You do know A Game of Retribution is coming out." She was like, "I get to go back to Hades," and I was like, "Yes, Mom, you get to go back."
Your mom is so fun. I'm always like, thank God, like moms and grandmas love my books.
Oh yeah. It was like a fight in our household when she started it because like she wanted to talk about it, and I walked upstairs at one point and she said like a sexy line from Hades, and I was like, "Stop it! Stop it right now." I was like, not allowed. So
it's gotta be so like interesting to share, like, because I feel like all of our grandmas were like, "Oh, Harlequin romance," and like I feel like what we read is sort of like a new version of romance.
Yeah.
So it's got to be just interesting to see that bridge kind of, or like experience it with your parents.
Yeah, I think it's funny like when she reads, because we'll talk about it, and like she doesn't know anything about Greek mythology, so I'll be like, okay, listen, all right, like I have to sit there.
I wonder like how much people actually see parallels, like if they think I'm just being stupid or if it's like they really get it. I don't know.
No.
Like the Thanatos thing with the hair, which was funny, but the fact that he was in the chains was like a whole other nod to,
Right.
That's a good example.
Oh my God, that one cracked me up. Like, I don't know if I missed that the first time I read it, but I literally was sitting here and I was like, and I just kept like typing. It's just really fun. Okay. Let me see. I'm just looking at I haven't even looked at the questions people have been submitting, so I probably should look at those.
I do want to answer them.
Yeah. Okay. Someone said, what was your favorite scene to write in a Game of Fate that you can remember?
Oh, probably the chapter A Touch of Darkness, and then the chapter after where Hades, like, you know, basically jerks off.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite scene to write. Can't believe I'm saying that out loud. Why am I saying that out loud?
It's okay. It's okay. It's going to be on the internet forever now, so that's fine.
Yeah. I own it. I'm owning it.
Yeah, you write
it. It's because it was such a, like, really intense scene, and I was like, wow, damn, Hades, like you act like you've never had sex before.
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah, but you know, then I was like, maybe it's just like what you get for, you know, being a douchebag for most of your life.
Honestly, yeah, that's literally the punishment, dude. Like, that's how this works.
Yeah.
Is there, well, you might not know this right off the top of your head, but is there a content difference between the hardcover and the paperbacks of
Retribution?
Retribution or Game of Fate?
Oh, I don't know about a Game of Fate. I don't think so, because when I was publishing them myself, there was always bonus content in the physical books, because I always felt like people, you know, had to invest more to buy those, and I was very thankful, so I would put bonus content in them. For Retribution, the bonus content is all the same, and it's a snippet of Chaos, and it's really good. I think so. And it also has a month and date for the publication of Chaos, so just, you know.
Ooh, okay.
Skip forward.
I was like trying to find it, but I also don't want to like look. Okay. Someone wanted to know, this is a good question. So will you be talking more about the drug Evangeline, because it was mentioned twice?
Yeah, probably. It doesn't come up in Retribution, but I think what it will do is, in those sort of spin-off novels, especially for like Medusa and Athena, it definitely has, like,
that would make sense.
It sort of takes center stage. Yeah. So anytime we're dealing with the actual mortal world, you know, you know, I was thinking in terms of it being like Molly.
Yeah. Or that makes sense. That makes sense. Someone wants to know, because they've seen you in your beautiful cosplays, where do you get your horns?
Etsy.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to have them 3D printed by the library, but I started that sort of during the pandemic, and, you know, we were trying to do different things. So yeah, but I think they are 3D printed anyway.
Yeah. So
it would be really cool if you can see if your public library has a 3D printer. They'll typically, if they don't do it for free, they'll just charge for the like the plastic they use to print it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty cheap to have things made through them, and they will not question why you need it, or like judge you for why you need it.
I mean, if you're like, listen, it's for a book, but that's all you need to know.
Yeah, they don't even care. They'll just be like, I mean, my library, like I'm in Oklahoma. I was with the Pioneer Library System. They would just they don't care. They're like happy to help you do whatever and teach you the software and stuff. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
This is kind of a fun question. Someone said, why Hades and Persephone? There's so many Olympians. Why did you choose them?
Well, you know, on the scale of who's the best, and like, you know, as far as like lovers go, they are. But I think I'm like everyone who sort of had a fascination with their quote unquote love story. Yeah. And I think we all kind of wanted it to be actual love and not like an abduction.
Yeah.
You know, and simple. So in my brain, I'm like, how can we make that way? And yeah, it's kind of simple.
Makes sense. What do you think Hades' favorite whiskey is?
I don't know enough about whiskey to answer this question. I did buy, I bought a whole, I don't know if anyone joined me for this stupid live. I bought a 25 Days of Christmas, whiskey.
Love that.
Advent calendar. And I intended, and I will probably do this in December this time.
Yeah.
To go to film myself every day trying the whiskey.
Yeah.
So when I do that, I will let you know what I think his favorite whiskey would be.
Okay.
But I I've only tried a few whiskeys, and I'm still kind of like deciding what my favorite is and what Hades would like. I asked someone once what they thought he would like, and I can't remember their answer, but stick with me till December. That whiskey advent box was like $250 from the fucking UK. I still have like most of the whiskeys.
And are they like what, like this big?
They're little. They're so cute.
Oh my god.
And but I don't know if it's still up. It was so embarrassing. I couldn't find number 2. I could not find it. And
were you already like drinking?
Yeah. No. I mean, yes, but no.
Right. Right.
It's just like when you have pressure, like you're on camera, and I was like, "Where's 2?" And they're like, they were trying to tell me where it was, but the cameras flipped, so their directions sucked ass.
Oh my god!
It was the fucking worst. So, anyways, I will do that in December, and I'll have an answer for you then.
Honestly, it doesn't surprise me. Why is it also all like the best advent calendars are in the UK? Like they're never here.
I don't fucking know, man. But that one is great, so highly recommend.
Okay.
But also just be wary that you're actually buying it, like if you see it, because there are whiskey and wine advent calendars.
Oh, love that.
And you want to make sure that you buy it from the actual place. Like it's like Spirit and Co. like UK or something. .uk. I just say that because I was a librarian for 5 years, and I'm like, scams.
That's right. That's right. Okay, I'm gonna ask the KBB question last, but let me see. Oh, favorite part of being inside Hades' mind?
Man, it's a cross between like the sweet things he does where he feels stupid. Like in Retribution, he picks her flowers.
That's so cute.
And then the really hot stuff where he's like, you know.
He's good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good at that. Yeah. I understand. Going to that, so this was a question we asked this month on Patreon when people were reading A Game of Fate, which is fuck, marry, kill Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. People like hated me for this one.
God, I really hate
Zeus.
God. Oh, I really hate Zeus. Yeah. You would have to marry Hades because you're stuck with him for life.
Yeah,
and if you marry him, fuck him. And if you have fuck, you can use one time.
Right. It's just a one time. So like, which one? Poseidon or Zeus?
Oh, I hate them so much.
No, it's really tough. Like I was like, good luck, and just like let the questions.
I just let it go. It's so hard for me because I have I have so much. I don't know why I have so much anger built up towards Zeus about Medusa, but I do.
That's fair.
I just so much anger. Why do I feel like this is going on my permanent record?
It's okay. You can change your mind later.
It's on the internet forever. We all know the internet is important now.
You gotta think about this.
I feel like I would have to kill Zeus. I'd have to marry Hades and fuck Poseidon just once.
Just one time. That's it. That's one time.
That's gross. That's so fucking gross.
I know. That was actually my
I feel like
answer.
I need to walk through fire to, cleanse myself.
You mean just like Akate did to Poseidon when she saw him? She just put him on fire, and he was like, she's like, nah, you can wait a few more minutes.
Yeah, he's the worst. I don't know why I hate him so much, but I do, and I don't think he has any redeemable qualities.
Yeah, I mean, now that you've described him, I really hate his guts.
I just he's described differently in myth. I will give him that, and I think you could pull out that he was in fact one of the stronger of the three from mythology. But I really cannot get over the rape of Medusa. So that's kind of my hang up.
Yeah, I get
that. It's a fair hang up.
I think that's fair. Is there a scene or a chapter that you are really excited to work on? Like you haven't started yet?
It's
just open-ended.
Oh. Well, I'm writing QMM right now.
Yeah. Is it going good? Is it in a bet, like, because I remember when I talked to you when you were writing Retribution, you were like, oh my god.
I know, I hated it so much. I'm sorry, I hated this book.
But you loved it because it's coming out. Look, it's out in the world. It's out in the world.
At the end,
right?
At the end, I was like, oh, I'm so proud of that book. But yeah, what I love about QMM is this descent into, like, you know, we have two morally gray characters, and there's a descent to, you know, even like farther into that morally gray area. Yeah. And more importantly, why? And I think that that's the fun part to explore, why people, you know, choose to do this kind of stuff. And hopefully I do a good enough job where people can still fight for them. But yeah, it's going to be a really good book, I think, if I do say so myself.
No, you definitely get that pat on the back, because like I really loved King of Battle and Blood, and like I know it's gonna be good.
I loved it. I know it's I think it has some people on the fence, because I think it's hard to see women in the morally gray arena, but I have an argument for that. Of course, I have an argument for everything. So
okay,
look at your face.
If anyone who doesn't like it can come fight me on that, because I disagree. I just remember thinking when you announced like King of Battle and Blood, I was like, oh, so I'm not getting this book. And I just remember being so mad. And I was like, I trust her. I trust the process. And then I got it and I read it and I was like, I'm an asshole.
So many people were so angry at me for not writing A Game of Retribution and writing King of Battle and Blood. But they were so loud. And you can tell how loud they were.
Yeah, I didn't say anything because I was like, I'm going to let this ride out. Then I got it and I was like, okay, I can wait, because that was so good. Like, it was so good. Like, if someone's not reading it, I need them to read it.
I think KBB, I do think that once people read QMM, it's going to be like so different. It's going to be so different. And the difference is that I get to just to create my own world with KBB, and I adapted a world with my Greek series. So QMM, it starts with impalement.
Look, sold.
It just gets darker from there.
I'm sold. So, like, you know, impalement. Yeah, we're good.
I had to play upon Vlad the Impaler somehow,
right?
But not in an offensive way. So
right. Yeah, we can't, no, we're not dealing with that. If someone comes at you for that, I'll be like, okay, just stop.
I don't think they will. Everyone from Romania who's reached out to me has been so ecstatic to see their culture represented in a book. It's been the most amazing experience.
That's so cool.
It's super, super cool. Very thankful.
Someone said, which one of the dogs is Hades' favorite?
Oh man, if you asked about horses, I could answer you, but I think he feels equally, because Kerberos is a monster, remember?
Yes.
And his actual form is one dog. So he'd just be like all three, but technically the one monster.
Yes.
But he does have a favorite horse, which is Alistair. So because they have a shared trauma, I think.
Yeah. So. I was gonna say I could see the favorite of the horses.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely. I feel like it's such a cute moment where he tells him, like, if you want to die, tell me. Yeah, it's like, okay, Hades.
And the way they like communicate to him, they're like, no, and he's like, okay.
I know. I love how they get into Akate's mushrooms.
I just love everything about her.
I know, and he openly accuses her of doing shrooms.
Yes, he did.
It's the best thing ever.
He's like, I mean, listen, I know she does it, but like,
yeah. But it's kind of like a secret.
Yeah.
Like, we don't talk about it.
Yeah, no. And she comes out in this like amazing robe and is like walking the field.
I love her.
She's just the best. What is your favorite thing that you've read recently? Someone asked.
Oh, I read, let me get in here to look, because I'm going to get the name wrong.
Story of my life.
I know. I just, it's Palace. The Lotus Palace by Jeannie Lee.
Oh, yeah.
I have a panel with her in Missouri, and I had seen the Lotus Palace a lot, and I downloaded it and hadn't read it yet.
Yeah.
And I read it, and I loved it. It's like a murder mystery meets China, and I don't know if it's ancient China per se, but it was just so good, and I loved it. So definitely check her out because. Okay. I loved it. And then I revisited. Have you ever read A Scott in the Dark?
No, what is that? Wait, that
so
sounds amazing.
I love Regency Romance.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure I have this right.
Oh, wait, love the cover.
Yeah, it's so great, isn't it? It's by Sarah McLean.
Yes.
And it's like the Scottish laird who was never supposed to be, like, you know, takes on a ward, and it's like the ward and the Scottish laird love story. And it's so good. And so I revisited that recently, and it's like the idea of him trying to find her a husband, but he's in love with her. And oh god, so read A Scott in the Dark because it's one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's my comfort read.
The first one is called A Rogue Not Taken. I'm assuming you don't have to read it.
A Rogue Not Taken is good too. I love it. Yeah. Okay. So read A Rogue Not Taken. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Okay. So any Sarah McLean and Tessa Dare book, I'm like 100% on board with. Like The Wicked and the Wallflower is one of my favorites. And I always pitch it as a grown-up Kaz Brecker. Basically, like, yeah. Yes!
Sold.
Anyways, definitely read it.
Because you know what's so funny is like Book Talk talks a lot about Shadow and Bone, which I read. And I actually really liked Shadow and Bone because it's like very interesting world building. Like I was like, oh, this is really, I mean, I wanted more than just a Kefta, but like, you know, I get it. It's right. Like, it's a YA book. I'll give it a break, you know? But then I got Six of Crows and I was like, no, this ain't it, y'all. We need this needs to be adult. Like,
Wicked and the Wallflower. Just, you know, so the main character, they call him Devil.
Okay, sold.
And also, it's also by Sarah McLean. And, you know, it has the cover that all, like, romance, like, covers have right now. Like,
yeah.
You know, and, but I love it so much. And, yes, there we go.
Yes.
There we go.
Yep.
And he's like a Kaz Brecker, and there's the scene in Covenant Garden, and he's like, I own all of this, and he like stomps his foot or his cane, I can't remember, and you hear like the echo of it all around because it's all of his men like out there watching, and it's just good. So read that, please. It's one of my favorites.
Okay. Are you ever do you want to write a Regency romance?
I don't think I would be good at writing Regency romance because I'd have to pick a time frame and stick to it, and then I like to be I like to be so fantastical, and
that's fair.
That's why I didn't write in ancient Greece, because I felt like I would have to be too historically accurate, and I was like, fuck that, you know. I don't mind being historically accurate, but like also it's hard to be. So
right. And then I guess the final question, which is one about KBB, it says, do you plan to do Adrian's point of view books as you did for the Touch of Darkness series once KBB is finished?
So no, I do think that QMM will have Adrian's point of view. I've been writing his point of view. So you'll already get his point of view in QMM.
So excited for that.
You do have his point of view in the Barnes & Noble special edition of the first chapter.
Yes.
The cool thing about that is in QMM, the Barnes & Noble special edition of QMM, it's turned into a graphic novel, and I've seen the past pages. So cool. So amazing. So no, I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. I really just feel like the thing that Adrian was trying to do in QMM was focus on his old. And he had some other things going on, but his main focus was her.
Yeah.
Because whatever is in his head about her with like how he conquers, like that's important to him.
Yeah.
So that was sort of an integral piece to his plan. And yeah, so no, but he has a point of view in QMM, and it's unsettling. So it's very unsettling.
I'm excited.
But thanks for asking a question about KBB.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm glad someone did, because let me tell you, if you aren't reading it, you will be required to. So just so you know.
I love KBB. I know it feels so. What I say about KBB is that it's a good intro book. I know a lot of people wanted it to be longer, but it definitely is just the perfect introductory to that world.
It is. It's like the perfect size. It flew off the page. Like everything about it just did.
And I think you have to remember too, like I think I write fantasy for people who aren't like you might not be reading George R.R. Martin. Like you might watch the TV show, but you're not going to read the books.
Yeah.
And I write fantasy for that group of people. Like I have a sci-fi novel and I'm super excited about writing one day, but I think I write sci-fi for people who don't like sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I think like I write high fantasy for people who, aren't into like super heavy world building.
Yeah.
There's just enough where you feel like what the world is like, and and I'm okay with that,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about KBB. And
yeah, it's a good palate cleanser for me because I do like the high fantasy ones, but I can only do like one every once in a while.
I do too. Yeah, but it is exhausting. It really is.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have a balance of like the fun and the darkness,
Yeah.
Especially with Soren.
Yeah. 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 So, well, thank you for doing this. I always have so much fun chatting with you and talking about your book.
I feel like it hasn't even been 2 hours.
I know.
Which
what
is,
have
like,
we
been
doing?
To me, like literally 2 hours.
We've been literally talking for 2 hours, but it's fine. I'll probably have to get you on to do a Game of Retribution spoiler chat.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. In fact, I would love to talk about this book and bitch about how it was the bane of my existence.
Great. Can't wait. So when I read it, I'll be like, what is this? Why is he doing this? And you'll understand.
I might have answers for you.
Great. Can't wait. I'm starting it hopefully tonight if I'm not like doing something else, but I am very excited.
Why would you be doing anything else but reading this book?
Let me tell you, my friends, I think my friends and family, they literally are like, do you do anything besides read? And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand that. But look at how pretty it is.
It is there. It's so, Emily Wittig did this cover and I couldn't wait to see it in person. And it is a whole other experience seeing it in person.
It is. It's so
and it cracks me up when people see the cover for A Game of Gods because they're like, what's on the cover? And it's the Helm of Darkness.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I realized that.
Well, I think it released before Malice because, back then when I was an indie author, I just was like, let me share all my plans with you. And people were like, what is on the cover? And I was like, the Helm of Darkness. You'll get it when you read Malice.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's fine.
It's okay. People just need to listen to you more often.
Do people think about authors? Like, when you read a book, do you actually even think about the author?
Yes, I do.
Well, you do, but like, maybe we should do a poll.
Right?
Does anyone actually think twice about? Today I was in the bookstore. I was signing books at my local Barnes & Noble, and I sat on the floor to like pull off my books and start signing them. And this woman was beside me and she was like, nice. She was like, I read all these books. I love them. And I said, oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Have you read Retribution yet? Because it's been out for 3 weeks, even though the release date's next week.
Right.
And she was like, no, I didn't know about it. I was like, well, I'll sign this to you if you want it.
Did she realize you were the author? Or was she just like, you're some random person signing the book?
I think I think at first, I don't, because at the point she said, like, I loved all the books, I was already signing them. But it would have been hilarious if I was just like, who the fuck knows? And just signing random books in Barnes & Noble.
It's like signing books.
Just like signing random ass books for the hell of it. Yeah, so that was hilarious. I don't think a lot of people track authors really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious about it.
So far people are saying yes. Only one person said no. They said not usually. I guess
You don't think twice about the author. Yeah.
I think it depends on the book too, because I think sometimes I'll read a book and I'll be like, especially with, I think KBB was the first one that I was like, I'm messaging Scarlett about this, because I got to a certain point in it and I was like, oh my God, this is what's happening. Like, I got so excited. So I think it depends on the moment. I think if like it's a, you know, if it pulls you, you're like,
Maybe people don't feel like we're accessible.
oh yeah, it blew. I think you were the first author that I started reading, and it blew my mind. You had a Facebook group, and I was like, why did that blow my mind? It made no sense.
I have a Facebook group so I can actually chat with people, because it's really hard to do so on my Instagram, but in the Facebook group I can actually like talk or just see what they think, or like, and I love that.
Are they nice to you in there?
Oh yeah, I think I've it sounds terrible, but I feel like I've trained them.
Nope, that's not
to
terrible.
not be assholes, but like, you know, they've been very good. I've had a couple of instances where I've had to be like, look, this is not well, and you know, if they're mean to other authors in my group, I absolutely think that's shitty and I shut it down, because authors also follow me. And I'm like, I love those authors and I don't care what you think about their books, but there's no need to comment on, you know, how you feel about this.
Yeah.
So I think they know how to act in the group.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a safe space. That's the goal.
Yep.
For it to be a safe space for me. When it becomes not a safe space, it will get deleted.
Good.
And I'm not afraid to enforce stuff like that. So
Good.
I've already told them. When that stuff happened with JLA, I made a post about how like awful it was and how everyone who participated should be ashamed of themselves, and that if it ever happened in this group, I would delete it immediately.
I made a TikTok about that, and some people thought it would be funny to just, you know, continue to talk shit about her, and I blocked them so fast.
Yeah. No, I'm not interested in it. Yeah, it's not. You know, all I can think about, and you know, this was a public post that JLA had made. You know, but because she writes things about her life, but she talked about with Wait for You. There's a suicide element in that book, and it was based on her life. And all I could think is that you don't know what people have been through,
no,
and something like that could have torn them to pieces. Like, you could have been responsible for pain beyond anything you ever imagined, because you think somehow they're not human, because they wrote a book that you're invested in. And you know, you have to step back and recognize that these people live real lives, and this is our livelihood. At the end of the day, it's our job, and we're sharing what's in our head with you, and we don't have to do that. We're lucky that we get to do that. And as readers, like, we're very thankful for the ones who respect us. But once you stop respecting us, I could care less whether or not you still follow me. Yeah. And it sounds harsh, but you know, I've been through a lot of shit in my life, and I know the value of having like true, genuine people in my life. And those are the only people I want. And if you're not a true, genuine reader, I would rather you not follow me. You know?
Right. And at that point, where's the joy in reading if you're reading something to hate it? I will never understand that.
Yeah.
If you don't
my biggest issue with that was like, first of all, everyone knew. But secondly, you know, it's still the creation of the author at the end of the day, even though you feel like you have ownership over it.
Yep.
And, you know, I love that people feel so invested in my characters, but if you feel so invested in my characters that you disregard my humanity, we have a problem.
Yep.
And especially on the tail of COVID, where everyone is traumatized. But like I said before, I think I'm just very in tune with this idea that everyone has been traumatized in some form after COVID or during COVID because of how I was traumatized by COVID. So yeah, I think, and we do it with everyone.
Yes.
There's not a single person when they were younger that didn't look at some celebrity and hate them for no fucking reason.
Right.
Like, we had no reason.
Right.
And then as we get older, we're just like, God damn, I admire that person for being able to handle like paparazzi and just the barrage of hate that comes at them for no reason. Because we grow up.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have a lot of feelings about it.
It's okay. I mean, I think your Facebook group is one of the better moderated and controlled situations in that, because I was a part of the From Blood and Ash one, and I was like, whoo, there's a lot of people in here with a lot of opinions.
Once we and my group is actually quite small compared to even like Lord the Losses or Tate James or JLA's, of course. I don't really like reside on Facebook as much as I do Instagram. Yeah. Instagram is where I get most of my hate. But I did recognize a difference. I saw a difference in the way my community behaved when we introduced our moderators, and they quit saying weird things that would just, I think they were just trying to get my attention so I would respond or something. It was weird.
It is weird.
But once the moderators came in, they stopped doing that, and the behavior changed. And everyone in there is so nice. So absolutely nice.
Yeah.
And when it changes, though, I will delete the group because
good.
No one should be so it's not even me, but my readers should not be subjected to that.
No.
Because it's just as traumatic for them to see those exchanges as it is for me to read them.
Someone's asking for a link to your group, so I'm trying to pull it up.
It's called Cult of Scarlett on Facebook.
Yes. It's the best.
It's called Cult of Scarlett because it's a play on Greek cults, which were formed around gods, because I'm a dork.
Listen.
I'm just waiting for someone to not get it and think that I have an actual cult. Like, that's kind of and I'm not that person. Like, I'm not the person that's like, oh, you don't get it. But I've been, because I have shirts that say Cult of Scarlett. So I've been really nervous about people being like, you belong to a cult? And I'm like, I have to be like, no, it's a thing.
Right. Like, oh my God, please don't say that. Yeah. No, I get it. Well, I think your group is great, and I think it is one of the, I mean, I'm not in the other ones, but I'm in a few author groups, and yeah, everyone's so kind in there, and they're hysterical. Like, they post the funniest stuff in there.
They crack me up. I think it's so cool how talk about fandom. I'm like, I think it's so cool how I had one person tag me in a post on TikTok, and she was like, thanks to Scarlett St. Clair, I'm pregnant with my second kid. And I was like, I said, I hope you name them after me, even if it's a boy.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really funny. So I love it.
my friend has her mom was a big fan of Outlander and took her to a signing with her wearing a shirt that says, I was born because of Outlander, and made her sign a book for her. So when she got older, so it says like, to Izzy, my youngest fan. So now she's old enough that she has the copy.
Oh my God. See, I mean, it's a thing. We're responsible for some children out there.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, someone's named Persephone out there because of your books, even though they'll say it's a Greek myth.
No, I actually do think that I've had one person tell me that she named her, and they call her Sephi for short, and I thought that was very cute. It's really I think the most meaningful things are when people actually like, it's changed some element of their life. Yeah. Like, I've had a couple women who have chosen to move forward with their divorces because of my books, or they were able to kind of cut off these very traumatic relationships with their mother because they read my books, or just process their grief in a different way because of my books. And that's very meaningful to me. And you never think you can change the world writing romance. I've said that before, but it turns out that you can. Yeah. And it has its value among genre.
It does. I mean, all of these bookshelves behind me wouldn't exist if I didn't read A Touch of Darkness.
That's amazing.
Is that weird to think of?
Like, just take a moment.
None of these would exist because I saw a TikTok about A Touch of Darkness and picked it up and fell in love with it. And this is what happened.
I remember writing A Touch of Darkness and feeling like this was it. Like, this is going to be the book, And I had failed a lot before then.
But that's okay, because it's a good one.
I know. It was my first romance. So, yeah.
Knocked it out of the park.
Oppressed that side of me because I was so afraid of it. But I was reading it, like, ferociously. I was like, I'm going to do it.
It's, no. It's really good. So, well, again, thank you, and I'm really excited to dive into this, and I'm glad we had a chance to chat about A Game of Fate. Hopefully it helped jog some of y'all's memories about what happened in that story, so you guys can dive into this.
Yeah, let me know what you think.
I will.
I'm excited. I'm glad. I'm ready for it to be out.
I'll just be like, okay, so why did he do this, and why did he do this, and
I think you'll understand everything he does in here.
Okay.
It is very much, it's so action packed. In fact, at one point my editor said, "Can we have a break?" And I was like, no, there's no way. So the only way it's broken up really is with, Persephone's side of things. But there's some fun chapters. Like this one is like the past is a shadow. And this is a Lord of the Rings reference to a chapter that's yeah, exactly. Okay, great. Okay, you get it.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love when you like the little nods.
It's so dumb, but it's so dumb, but I do it anyway.
Oh, I just flipped to this one. Just
yeah, fucking cake. It's the last line. That's why it's titled fucking cake.
It's so
and
good.
It's so funny because, she bakes that cake and she falls asleep in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that has to have an ending.
Yeah, it does.
He promises her he won't let the cake burn.
Yes. And I mean, the thing that I was most looking forward to, which I'm really excited to read, is his reaction to her, like, tearing apart the underworld.
Oh, it's exactly what you think it is.
Good.
Everyone used to ask me, like, what does Hades think? And I was like, I would always say, he just thinks fuck. And that's like basically his reaction. But that was really hard scene to write.
Oh, that was the thing I was most excited. I was like, couldn't wait. His reaction on like from her point of view, I was like, oh, let's go.
He's so he's so confused because at that point he doesn't know what she saw.
Right.
But from her brain, it was so real. But it was so real to everyone who read, Ruin.
I panicked.
People have messaged me before they moved on to the next chapter to like bitch at me about it and like to say like they said some really awful things, and then they have to come back and be like, never mind. And I'm like, yeah, okay, just quit reacting. Like
that's so embarrassing.
It's interesting.
Also, I would 100% do that, but like
I'll just see it and I'm like, just wait.
Yeah,
you have a few more pages to read.
Kelsey Sutton, I did that to her. I like messaged her about something. I was like, you did not, and she was like, Sarah, read 2 pages.
Keep reading. Yeah, I know. And I was just like, it's gonna be so. It's a nod to mythology. Like I had to acknowledge the cheating in some way.
Right. There you go. Yeah. There's your nod. Okay. All right. Well, we've talked for 2 hours.
Okay. It was a joy. Thank you for hosting.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Anytime.
I can't wait to do a spoiler chat for Retribution on board.
Yeah.
What we really need to do is a spoiler chat for KBB before QMM comes out and then really go in the QMM.
Okay, and then we can drink for that one too. We'll just drink for all of them.
Yeah, don't forget your wine next time. I'm disappointed in you.
I know. Even my fucking Fate's wine glass is dirty. Like, I really wasn't prepared. I know.
Which one do you have? The bookish box one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good one. I have like 2. I have 2 fucking Fate's glasses. I have one that says Queen of Smut. And then I have my Scarlet wine glass.
Okay.
Which you can't see because there's no wine.
Yeah, but it was cute. Yeah. Someone said, can you order signed books if you can't get them signed in person? Do you have a way to do that? Okay.
There's a link in my bio. You can order. There's 3 indie bookstores that you can order from. The one off the top of my head, a local one, which is Best of Books. And I'm actually going in to sign tomorrow. And I kind of did an all call, like a last call, like if you want your book signed. And with that pre-order, you can also order QMM to be signed now if you want. But just a note, with that pre-order, you get the Helios, Hades, and Rosie print. And you can submit your receipt to get the bonus scene of Hades and Persephone. And I keep saying it mentions babies because it does. It's a very sweet conversation. But it's also like everyone always asks me to write mundane scenes for them. It's also one of those mundane scenes. It's this one. This is the print you get.
It's so cute. It's mine is like, I think mine's sitting on a shelf or something right now, but it is literally the cutest thing.
It's so funny. It's by Eliza the One, and I love her caricature art. And I was like, can you do one with like Helios like looking lovingly at Rosie and Hades being really fucking confused? And you'll get it when you read A Game of Retribution.
Okay.
But yeah, so
when?
Yes.
I think she's the one that had that not safe for work fan art of Hades and Persephone. Yes. Okay. You have seen it.
She had one. She's had a couple. Yes. Okay. And she did a gorgeous Isolde. I don't know if recently. You guys saw her. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right?
Yes. Let's see. She has the most accurate Isolde eyes I've ever seen. And sometimes it's hard for me to just like to really like find people that fit what I'm thinking of. But she got it. And it's because she used the girl from Bridgerton's eyes, but like the most accurate Isolde art I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. She's so absolutely beautiful.
She's gorgeous.
Obsessed. Cannot wait to get a print of that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I know I'll probably talk to you before I see you at a Polycon, which is going to be
likely
very, very soon. I know.
I'm kind of anxious for that, but it's only because I get really tired. Like I can go about 2 hours, like just 2 hours straight interacting with people, and then I'm tired, and then I don't feel as cool when I'm tired. Like
I'm the same.
So I'm really anxious that I'm just gonna like not energetic enough for people, and so
I'm
see me at my best at the beginning of the day.
Sounds good. Yeah. Oh, Polycon 2023 for you?
Yes, I'm already signed on. I think I don't know if they announced us yet.
Yeah.
But yes, I've already been accepted to that lineup. So thankfully, I'll be there.
Yeah. It'll be good. I'm excited. It's my first like book convention, and I will I get to like totally fangirl and like, you know,
if you're gonna fangirl anywhere, that's the place to do it because there's so many of us. Like I mean, there are people I'm gonna fangirl over, like absolutely. It's the coolest thing. I think that will be the place I'm most well known to, which will be very overwhelming for me. Yeah. So it'll be very cool to see that. But
yeah, I get it.
Looking forward to it.
It's gonna be good.
You'll be well known. It'll be like
listen.
I was at ALA a few years back, and there were a lot of book bloggers there who were like super big on Twitter and stuff. It was really
That's terrifying. Really cool. I specifically booked a room like at the hotel, and my friends were like, "Can I stay with you?" And I'm like, "No, like this is my sanctuary."
Because I don't want to talk to anyone after
I literally, if I have to be friendly for, like you were saying, for so long, like you need a place to just like decompress and take a breath and then go back into the craziness. Yeah. So I get it.
100%. And I went to Imaginarium and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think what I realized is that I do need to go and have a break, and then I can come back and be re-energized. But yeah, it was just like, because the first 2 hours were just like nonstop.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm so tired and I am hungry.
And I'm cranky and I'm not nice.
And I was like, and I want to be nice.
And someone's going to come up to you and be like, can you sign my book? Can I take a picture with you? You're going to be like, no.
I think you can tell throughout the day, like the pictures get like less and less. Like you're just kind of like, and it's not that you're not happy. It's just that you're so exhausted.
I know.
You know?
I know. I get it.
But coolest experience, one of the coolest experiences I've had was Imaginarium. And I think a Polycon will be just cool. I'm going to Book Bonanza also prior to that.
That's
so if
cool.
anyone's at Book Bonanza, you should, hop on over and
say hi.
All my Bloom, like a lot of my Bloom team will be at both events. So it'll be cool to meet the other authors. Like E.L. James and Elle Kennedy will be at Book Bonanza. And we were like the first 3 under Bloom last year. And then I think the rest of the team will be at a Polycon. So
that's going to be good.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you again. I'm going to
Thank
now
you.
go read, but it was nice chatting
Do
with
it.
you. Okay.
Update me.
Oh, I will.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye. All right, friends. I'm going to go ahead and end this live. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I will see you later. Putting on that ending screen. I did right. Okay, good.